Hey friends, I'm Pastor Jack Mantrick, pastor at Central United Methodist Church, and today is Friday, and this is my devotion for today, June 25th. Friends, all this week we've been talking about the radical nature and the countercultural movement that is our Christian faith, that is the teachings of Christ, that was the ministry of the Apostle Paul. And so we've been talking about that, and I want to read the scripture that it was the foundation of this message this past Sunday and what we've been talking about throughout this week. It comes from the second letter, Paul's second letter to the Corinthians. So 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 1 through 13. Let me read this to you one final time this week. As we work together with him, referring to God, we urge you also not to accept the grace of God in vain. For he says, at an acceptable time I have listened to you, and on a day of salvation I have helped you. See, now is the acceptable time. See, now is the day of salvation. We are putting no obstacle in anyone's way so that no fault may be found with our ministry. But as servants of God, we have commended ourselves in every way, through great endurance, in afflictions, hardships, calamities, beatings, imprisonment, riots, labors, sleepless nights, hunger, by purity, knowledge, patience, kindness, holiness of spirit, great and genuine love, truthful spirit, and the power of God, with the weapons of righteousness for the right hand and for the left, in honor and dishonor, in ill repute and good repute. We are treated as impostors and yet are true, as unknown and yet are well known, as dying and see we are alive, as punished and yet not killed, as sorrowful and yet always rejoicing, as poor yet making many rich, as having nothing and yet possessing everything. We have spoken frankly to you, Corinthians. Our heart is wide open to you. There is no restriction in our affections, but only in yours. In return, I speak to as to children. Open wide your hearts also. I like that scripture. I enjoy it. May God add a blessing to that reading. Friends, we've been talking about how it is that our faith is meant to be countercultural, and it is meant to be radical in nature, coming from Jesus' teachings, and it shaped the ministry and life of the Apostle Paul. Toward the end of my message, I shared a conversation with an older member of our congregation. The way I presented that person was saying that they were about 20 years older than me, and so they're really getting up there. And it was a delightful conversation, one that we'd been wanting to have with each other, but due to COVID, we had not settled down and had that conversation. And this person spoke to me about some of the initiatives here at Central Church, initiatives of trying to understand racial reconciliation, of trying to reach out to our Black siblings as well as our Asian and Latino siblings here in the Waterford area, and how we can develop relationships that will reveal the fullness of God's love for all people, no matter their race, their color, their cultural backgrounds. And then we got to talking about the initiative being the LGBT plus initiative, inclusion issue. And the way this person said is, I don't understand all that's involved in racial reconciliation. And she said, and I don't understand all that GB, all those letters, inclusion issues. But then she told me a couple stories that shaped her life. She told the story of how a neighbor lady who was Black, husband was stranded because a car had broken down, and she asked that our friend, a member of our church, our community, would go and pick her up, pick up her husband, and she did. And people challenged her on it. What do you think your husband would think, of you going and picking up that Black man? And she said, well, I don't know, but if I was stranded, I think my husband would appreciate it if he came and picked me up and helped me. And then she told the story, a heartbreaking story of a niece who came out of the closet as lesbian, and how she was not accepted, no longer accepted by members of her family. But this woman, her aunt, accepted her and reached out to her and shared, a presence of love and peace in her life. See, that woman said, I don't understand everything that's involved in racial reconciliation. I don't understand that everything about this LGBT plus inclusion. She did understand, though, and quite clearly. She understood a ministry of love and reconciliation, of reaching out to people in need, reaching out to people despite the differences that they had with her. I love that. And when I think about our faith, I think about the things that we don't understand. Do we truly understand the mercy and forgiveness that we have from God? Its depth, its width, its power. Do we understand it completely? Do we understand the peace of God that we read about in Philippians 4:7, which surpasses all understanding? Sometimes we're not meant just to understand everything, but to trust and be engaged in a ministry of love and reconciliation. Do we understand what it is to love regardless of our understanding of everything in their lives? Do we understand what it means to be reconciled to people who are different from us, though we do not understand their cultural background, their family dynamics, the lives that they live that are made complicated and difficult by the lives they are called to live, whether it be the color of their skin or their orientation in terms of who they love. We are to love. We are to seek a ministry of reconciliation for all people for whom Christ died. This is really important work. It's really important ministry. So how does this view of understanding what needs to be understood, how does that move you towards being a counter-cultural follower of Christ? That's the challenge for you to think about over this weekend as we prepare for yet another Sunday, this coming Sunday. I hope to see you. We are having worship at 10:30 in the morning. We do live stream that right on Facebook. Like us on our Facebook page, Central United Methodist Church, Waterford, Michigan, and you will get those notifications of when our worship service is beginning on Sunday morning. I hope that you'll join us. This is the last in a series of messages based on the lectionary. Next Sunday in July, the following Sunday in July, we will be putting out a new series of messages called Life-Changing Decisions. And so we hope to launch that we will be launching that on the first Sunday in July, and that series of messages will follow all the way through August. So we have a 2-month series of really talking about life-changing decisions that we can make, and using the scriptures as a guide to make those decisions. Good to be with you on this Friday. I've gone a little longer. I hope to see you on Sunday in worship. God bless and take care.